Good evening and welcome into Tennessee Volunteers live on the Voice of College Football Network. Tucker Harlan and Jordan Binkley with you on this Monday evening. Happy to have all of you along with us here tonight. If you're new to the channel, please like the video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel here on Tennessee at the Voice of College Football. We are live every Monday night at 8 Eastern Time, talking all things Tennessee football for about an hour each week. We do post game shows after every game, but we are postseason right now. So no games right now to discuss, but we do come to you with those on Saturdays as well if you're new here to the channel. So again, please like, share, and subscribe to Tennessee at the Voice of College Football if you have not already. Hope you all had a very nice weekend. Crossover season still in full swing here in the Tennessee athletics world. The Diamond Sports, they did better this weekend. The softball team's been humming along for quite some time, but the baseball team, they got right a little bit this weekend. They won 2 of 3 out in Dallas in that series. I think they call it the Amagi Bank Series. It's a different name every year. It's one of those Shriners events they have in Texas, but won 2 of 3 out there, and the one loss was the number one team in the country. So nothing to be too upset by, in all honesty. Needs some work on the hardwood, though. The women's team is on a pretty long losing streak right now, and Tennessee essentially lost 2 different versions of the same game to Mizzou and Alabama this week on the men's side. And the bigger problem there is the health of Nate Ament. Unfortunately, he is out for the South Carolina game. That broke, I think, maybe 15 minutes before we got on here tonight. So hope he's doing well, or hope he can get better. But been an up and down weekend for Tennessee sports, I guess. Jordan, how's your weekend?
Pretty good. I'm starting to get the process together, starting a new job.
Nice.
I don't know whenever I'm going to start, but getting closer to that. Hung out with a couple of buddies, went out a little bit, hung out for a while. But yeah, I mean, outside of that, I mean, I've had a pretty good weekend overall. Just getting excited for whenever college football comes back, man. It's been a long off season. I'm just waiting for it to get back, because as you know, like, I don't watch as many of other sports outside of college football like you do. So it's been kind of a dead period for me.
Yeah, it's not quite the same. I'll say that much. I enjoy the other sports. I don't enjoy them as nearly as much as I do football. But we're getting close. We're getting close. This is our first show of March, by the way. Best non-football month of the year by far. I'm not biased at all in saying that. It's just the truth. There's not a better month outside of the football season than March. You have the greatest tournament, greatest postseason in all of sports coming up here in just a couple of weeks. Will not be the last time we talk about college postseasons in this show, but March also means we're a little bit closer to spring football. What would that be, like 11, 12 days away from it now, Jordan? Like, yes. It's usually mid-March when it starts to get rolling, and then the orange and white game will be in early mid-April.
Oh, man, I honestly forgot about the orange and white game. I wanted to go last year but couldn't go. I might try to go this year.
You didn't have a Nico jersey, did you?
Oh, no, I've never owned a Nico jersey. I had a number 8 jersey, Adidas, back in the day that I brought when I was trying to meet Tyler Bray. Long story short, I met him and he handed my jersey right back to me because he had to go to practice. But I ended up making up for it. I ended up getting Eric Berry's autograph on that jersey because he happened to show up to the orange and white game. So, yes, I have a number 8 jersey. No, it is not Nico.
That's good that you have Tyler Bray, who is an actual VFL from California, not some guy who left because his dad wanted more money from Tennessee. But we're getting close. We're getting close. Just gotta bear with it here these last couple weeks. But we're getting much closer to the Tennessee football season. So we're going to talk a little bit about the past and I guess the future of Tennessee football. Maybe the future of Tennessee football later on in the show. It's been not a super news heavy week, although there have been some fascinating headlines throughout the week. One in particular today that we're going to talk about later. But I think the first real newsworthy event that we saw last week was the NFL scouting combine. Tennessee very well represented at the combine, 7 players there. Joey Aguilar, of course, a late addition to the group at quarterback after. Well, he announced he was going before the case was settled, and then I think it was maybe 2 days later where they said you're not getting another year of eligibility. So that's Tennessee's number at the combine. Again, well represented. And let's take a look at some of these results because, and I should start this by saying, not everybody participates in drills at the NFL Combine because we know that there are several guys that don't want to do it because of fear of injury, and we know of at least one Tennessee player who did not because of fear of injury. Maybe all 3 of them didn't that participated in drills. But let's go chronologically here, day by day. So starting on Thursday, very first position group to do on-field drills was your defensive tackles. Bryson Eason, of course, in that group for Tennessee. 5.09 on the 40-yard dash. That's 10th among defensive tackles. He had a 30.5-inch vertical jump. That is 11th among defensive linemen.
That's pretty good for his size, honestly.
Yeah. 9'4" broad jump. That's tied for 3rd among participating defensive linemen. Remember, not everybody participates in every drill. That's another thing you got to keep in mind here. Combine's kind of funny like that. And then the 20-yard shuttle, he had, I think, a 5-second time, so last among participating defensive linemen. So Eason is not a guy that I think many of us expected to really pop out in the on-field stuff. Just never really got that vibe from him at Tennessee. I'll use the Jalen McCullough example again. Maybe this is a situation where he can surprise us all and end up finding his way on an NFL roster because he shows some mettle in training camp, and then he becomes kind of an unsung hero for a team. I think that's the big hope right now with him.
Yeah, I mean, he wouldn't be the first Tennessee player to end up having like a trajectory like that. Like you mentioned, Jalen McCullough. Like honestly, I had high hopes for Shy Tuttle when he came into Tennessee, and I don't remember him doing all that much when he played there. But I mean, ended up having a pretty good NFL career. But I'm glad that he did participate in the drills. I mean, 30-inch vertical, I mean, that's pretty good because I'm pretty sure I read a statistic within the past couple of years, like the average NBA vertical, albeit like they're significantly taller on average, but I think the average NBA vertical is like 34 inches or something like that, or maybe even less. So, I mean, doing that at 323 pounds, I mean, that's pretty impressive. I don't know how it's going to end up panning out with him finding an NFL team. I mean, I feel like one thing that hurts against him is the fact that he's been playing at Tennessee since 2020. And then during that time, I mean, he never was Tennessee's best defensive lineman, if we're being real. I mean, he was consistent at times, but I mean, he was never exceptional. But I think that, I mean, we didn't see anything from him from the bench press or anything like that, but I think that he's seemingly a strong player. At least he looked like it when he was at the Senior Bowl. So, I mean, who knows? Maybe he'll be one of those guys that gets the WOW team and make a practice squad, but I don't know. I don't expect him to get drafted.
Up next, we got Josh Josephs at defensive end. He actually did not participate in drills this week. That's another guy that's been banged up for a lot of the year. I'm forgetting when exactly that would have started. Probably Alabama, Kentucky-ish range when he started getting a little banged up. I think they might have held him out of the ETSU and New Mexico State games. I'd have to go back and look at those, but he did not play every game this past season for Tennessee. A guy that I think a lot of people were really high on. I'm not going to say it's quite like the Shy Tuttle thing because Tuttle was a much higher rated prospect when he came to Tennessee. And Joseph showed you some things, especially in 2024. Pierce was still around at the time, but kind of felt like Joseph was still starting to kind of come into his own as a player. So a little disappointed that we didn't get to see him participate in drills, but a guy that I definitely think is going to find his way onto a team in the NFL draft, not just as an undrafted free agent.
Yeah, it was disappointing not seeing him in drills because I felt like he could have put up some decent numbers. I mean, of course, we don't really know what they would have looked like, but I mean, everything that I saw him play while he was playing at Tennessee, he seemed to be explosive at times. I mean, he was really good at generating pressure at the quarterbacks. I mean, he had a couple of forced fumbles there, and I mean, he's an exciting player. And like you mentioned, in 2024, I thought that he rivaled James Pierce in a lot of ways, or at least for a few games out of the season, I felt like he played just as good, if not better. You know how I feel about Josh Josephs. I feel like I think if he gets to the right NFL team, then I think that he can have a pretty successful career. But it is ultimately disappointing that we didn't get to see anything from him at the combine.
Yeah, I think this is a guy that's oozing with potential. And we'll get into mock drafts later, but I do think he finds his way onto a team in the NFL draft. Probably the last guy that will get picked from Tennessee, though. If I had to hazard a guess. So moving on. So those were your Thursday participants. Friday, you saw your defensive backs, linebackers, and tight ends go. Tennessee, of course, didn't have any linebackers at the combine. Colton Hood was the first defensive back that we saw participate in drills. This was a fun watch. 4.44 40. A lot of fours in there. 10th among defensive backs. Of course, defensive backs are going to be a little bit quicker in the 40 times. 40 and a half inch vertical jump. That's fifth among cornerbacks. 10'5" broad jump. That is tied for 11th among cornerbacks participating in the combine.
Yeah, I mean, Colton Hood, I mean, he was already projected to potentially go in the first round even before the NFL Combine, and I think if anything, he improved his draft stock. I mean, running a 4.4 and having a 40-inch vertical, especially because he's not a little guy either. I mean, some of these corners out there, I mean, you can be as short as like 5'9" and everything like that, but I mean, he's listed as 6 foot and has a 6'2" wingspan, and we already know how he is as a player. I mean, get the ball in his hands and he can take it to the house anytime anytime he gets it. And then on top of that, I feel like he's pretty exceptional in coverage too. Like if I'm not mistaken, he had like 9 pass deflections, if not more, this season, which is as many as Jermod McCoy had in 2024. And look at where they're projecting him to go in this year's draft. So I think Colton Hood's going to have an exceptional NFL career depending on what team he goes to.
Yeah. So you mentioned the next guy that we were hoping to see in the combine. And we saw some of him in interviews, but did not get to see him in many on-field drills. He did the bench press, I noticed. They came out with some of these the stats from these drills later, like the 3-cone drill, the 20-yard shuttle, and the bench press, like all came in a little bit later on the NFL Network app, the Combine Tracker. He did 14 reps on the bench press, which is 6th among participants. And look, I get why Jermod McCoy did not participate in some of the on-field drills. Like the guy's coming off an ACL tear in that exact same kind of setting. So you can't blame him for trying to exercise caution there. But as we know, torn pectoral muscles are also a thing. Ask Miles Kitselman.
Yeah.
So we did not get to see him in any drills. I did see where he was talking a lot about Ty Redmond and how optimistic he is about the future of Tennessee's defensive backfield with him. So that was cool to see. That was pretty cool to see. But again, just sad that we did not get one more season of Jermod McCoy like many of us were hoping for at Tennessee.
Yeah, you'd like to think that Tennessee could have potentially won at least one more game if he was out there, especially because of how the defensive back struggled at times. But yeah, his comments about Ty Redmond, I didn't realize like how tall he was. He was talking about his length and everything like that. And I looked it up and Ty Redmond's like 6'2" or something like that. And I mean, he's only a freshman, or I guess he'll be a sophomore now. So the future's seemingly bright with him. And that's a player that I've been high on for quite a minute now. But yeah, it was disappointing not getting to see Jermod McCoy out there. I will say 14 reps on the bench press. I mean, 225 as someone that lifts weights, that's hard to do, man. I mean, especially like it just goes to show like how strong these NFL players are because I mean, most people can't even do 1 rep of that, let alone 14, and it's not like he's a defensive lineman or anything like that. So, I think that goes a long way in showing his strength out there, which you could see it on the field. I felt like he was good in press coverage, and, he was a pretty locked down corner, and there's a reason why all these draft scouts are as high as him as they are.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of people talking to Jermon McCoy this week at the Combine just because of where he's projecting in the NFL draft. And a lot of people talking to Colton Hood, too, for that very reason, just because of everything that we know about his draft stock at this point. This next guy he did well in the interviews, as many of us thought he was going to do. He kind of became a meme in the on-field drills, if we're being completely honest. I am, of course, talking about Miles Kitselman at tight end. He finished with a 4.940. Of course, that was not his second time where he had that reaction, but that is last among tight end participants in the Combine. 34.5-inch vertical. That's 14th among tight ends who participated in it. The broad jump, 9 feet 8 inches, which is also last in that. He kind of became a joke on the internet. I feel bad for him, but I mean, if you watch Tennessee play this year, you kind of knew this was coming. If he was going to participate in the Combine.
Yeah, honestly, I mean, some ways the Combine can help you with your draft stock, but I already felt like he tanked his before he even got to the Combine. I mean, because he had high hopes. I mean, a lot of people had high hopes of him coming into this season, and he inadvertently caused 3 interceptions. He had several drops throughout the year. I mean, he just did not live up to what people thought that he could be. And then a 4.940. I mean, it's not like he's outrageously big either. What is his height and weight on here? Let me get it pulled up. 6'5", 250. I mean, there's a lot of tight ends in the NFL that are pushing 270 out there. And then running a 4.9, I mean, that's just a millisecond faster than Bryson Eason, what he was running. And Bryson Eason is 323 pounds. So, I mean, I don't know. I didn't have high hopes of Miles Kitselman heading into the NFL draft, but dang, man, dang. I mean, this is just not a good look for him.
No, it's not. This would be my hope for Miles Kitselman, because these don't really exist in college football anymore, but they're still around in the NFL. Can some NFL team take a chance on him and maybe use him as a fullback instead of a tight end? Because I feel like he'd be good at that at least, right?
I mean, I think so. I mean, he definitely would probably work out better for him considering how we saw him try to go out and make these catches this past season. And we've seen tight ends get converted to fullback before in the NFL. So, I mean, it wouldn't be too big of a shock, but I mean, he's going to have to fight to make a roster, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's going to be tough, man. He's a good teammate. We know that about him. He's a very good teammate, but after this week, and especially with what you're seeing too on the other side of the tight end spectrum, and Eli Stowers from Vanderbilt, who's essentially one of those Evan Ingram type guys who's like a receiver disguised as a tight end with all of the athleticism of a wide receiver. He kind of got dwarfed by that this week.
Yeah, he had a 40-inch vertical, didn't he?
Yeah, he did.
That is insane for a tight end. That is scary.
Yeah, so not a good weekend for Miles Kitselman. That's the only guy that I would say did not have a great weekend. Last day of Vols on the Combine was Saturday. Receivers, running backs, and I believe quarterbacks all went through drills on Saturday. Offensive linemen went on Sunday, but of course there's no offensive lineman to cover from the Tennessee side. David has alluded to it in the chat here. Chris Brazel ran a 4.37 40-yard dash at almost 6'5", 200 plus. It is pretty insane. The speed element combined with the length of Chris Brazel was something that I knew teams would be interested in. I think the big thing you have to wonder at this point with any Tennessee wide receiver that gets into the NFL is how much do those scouts look at Tennessee's offense and say that can translate Now, the reviews around Tennessee's offense, resembling that of a pro offense, have been better from the 2025 season than they have been the past 4 seasons under Josh Heupel, which is at least an encouraging sign if you're Chris Brazzell trying to get drafted. And I think, too, part of the problem with wide receivers that have gotten drafted out of Tennessee is they've gone to some really, really bad offenses. Cedric Tillman's getting subjected to the Cleveland Browns, who very stupidly decided to trade for Deshaun Watson in 2023. Could barely use him then. He wasn't good after that because, the guy had been playing football for basically 2 years. Dante Thornton going to play with Geno Smith and the Raiders last year. How did we think that was going to work out? Danny Dimes in a bad offense with the Giants. Again, how did you think that was going to work out with Jalen Hyatt there? So
Bayless Jones too. I mean, with the Bears, that was before Caleb Williams is the resurgent.
Yeah, and I don't mean to knock on Bayless or anything, but muff punts and kick fumbles will just destroy your stock as a future NFL star. I'm just going to be completely honest. But all those other guys, I just think you look at them and you just say, if they had just gone to a little bit of a better offense, you might be looking at something. They might have a better career ahead of them, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Well, as far as Chris Brazzell's combine performance, I thought that he had potential to go into the first round before, his numbers started dipping towards the later half of the season in 2025. But a 4.37. That's not something I expected. I knew that he was pretty fast. It was pretty evident watching Tennessee games, but I didn't know he was sub 4.4 fast. And then on top of that too, they have him listed as 6'4", but his wingspan is 6'8" inches. So this dude is not only tall, he's long, he's wide too. And I don't know, that 40-yard dash time, I think that's going to do nothing but help his draft stock. And I wouldn't be surprised if he ended up going earlier than people expected after this performance.
Yeah. It's just a matter of how early. I think I don't imagine he cracks the first round. I don't see that happening. But I think he will get drafted at some point, preferably in the middle rounds. So one last name here for us is Joey Aguilar, who was at the Combine. He was the last player to announce he was going to the Combine from Tennessee. He did not participate in drills, which, again, I don't blame him for. The guy just had a tumor removed from underneath his throwing arm. And by the way, I was watching some of the interviews that he was, or at least some of the media that was interviewing him from this past week at the Combine. And he said he found out that he had the tumor pretty early on in the season. Which then it totally makes sense as to why it progressively got worse as the season went on. His throwing did, or his numbers did. That got worse. But yes, I believed his interview was fantastic. I think he did a nice job there at the Combine in that regard. Just a shame that he wasn't able to participate in drills, I think, because of what we know happened with the tumor. And again, that is the definition of a guy giving his all for Tennessee, and I think everybody can appreciate that.
Yeah, I feel like he's always going to be respected amongst Tennessee fans for just the situation that he had to go through. To learn the offense in the span of a couple of months, getting prepared for the season, and playing pretty decently well. Almost breaking Peyton Manning's single season passing yard record, or at least getting in striking distance of that, and doing all of that while playing with the tumor. It just goes to show, his mental toughness and, everything that he's done in terms of interviews that I've seen him in and things like that. He appears to be a pretty well-spoken guy. And I'm sure that once these NFL teams start to interview him and everything like that, then they will, they'll like what they have to hear from him. And hopefully, that ends up translating to him making a NFL team. But as far as the draft goes, it might be a little bit difficult for him to do that. considering that he wasn't really that high of a prospect to begin with.
So let's talk a little bit about the draft here for a second. Just some of the mocks that we've seen in the days following the combine, or I guess the day following the combine, only one day removed from it up there in Indianapolis. I've got 4 that I stumbled upon today. 3 of them are almost symmetrical, or at least share some similarities. They are from CBS Sports, Yahoo, USA Today, and NFL Draft on SI. That's where I'm seeing these. They're all first round mocks, by the way, so you can probably guess who is in there and who's not at this point. So, in this CBS Sports mock, Jermon McCoy going at number 12 overall to the Dallas Cowboys, and Colton Hood going at number 13 overall to the Los Angeles Rams. Joining our boy Michael Hunter out there. I don't know if we can call him our boy, though.
He was there for like 3 weeks, a month?
Yes. Not even a month.
Yeah, I like both those projections right there. I think both of those corners, given their talent and everything that we saw from them at Tennessee, I think like the sky's the limit for them in terms of NFL. And if you go into good organizations like the Cowboys or the Rams, then you'd like to think that they're in good hands. Especially with how the Rams have been able to develop some of these former Tennessee players like Byron Young, for example, and to help them shine. I would really like to see either of them go to those 2 teams, and getting 2 top 15 draft picks. You would have to imagine that would help out for recruiting. That's one thing that Josh Heupel would go out there and be like, hey, if you want to come to Tennessee and you're a defensive back, look who we put in the first 15 picks like out here. We put 2 cornerbacks out there, and I feel like that speaks volumes. Even if Tennessee's underperformed at times in the defensive backfield, you can't deny that they had 2 studs in Jermon McCoy and Colton Hood.
Yeah, Rams defense is consistently good year to year, and I have no doubt in my mind that Colton Hood would perform well out there, especially for a team that needs a corner. When I look at Jermon McCoy, he's going to a team that didn't have a great year defensively. In fact, Dallas, I would argue the big reason why they did not get to the NFL playoffs was because their defense just wasn't good at all. Their offense could hang with anybody in the league, but they just couldn't stop anybody. Kind of similar to what the Vols did this past season. But I think the one comp I heard, it was either him or Hood. I forget which one. They kept comparing to Stephon Gilmore at the combine, which is that's some praise right there. If you're getting compared to Stephon Gilmore.
Yeah, it doesn't get much better than that, honestly, unless you're getting compared to Darrelle Revis or something like that. Stephon Gilmore is one of the best defensive backs in the NFL for a long time.
Yeah. Next one I found was from USA Today, and it again has Jermon McCoy going to the Dallas Cowboys, so won't spend too much time on that. Yahoo, Jermon McCoy, number 12 overall to the Dallas Cowboys. Again, what do you know? Maybe he's just destined to be a Dallas Cowboy at this point, man. I don't know. Maybe that's what's in the cards for him in the future. Colton Hood going number 32 overall to the Seattle Seahawks. That position for Hood has kind of varied a little bit over the last a couple months, like since the Senior Bowl. I think people really started to get an appreciation for Hood. But going to the Seahawks would be great too, just because you already know that's a winning organization with a nice young core on the defensive end. So that would be a good fit for him. And going to a defense that did really well. They're not the Legion of Boom, but they won a Super Bowl like the Legion of Boom did. So you have to imagine he'll be in a good situation once he ends up there, if he ends up there.
Yeah, the Seahawks had one of the best defenses in the NFL, if not like the best. I didn't watch as much NFL as I have in years past, but from everything I heard, it was the Seahawks and the Broncos that were really doing a lot of carrying on defense this past season. And you would like to see that from Colton Hood too, to go to an already established defense where there's already several threats around that people have to worry about. And it's like, oh, okay, let's go target the rookie. Who knows? If he was to end up going to the Seahawks, then he could he could probably get a ton of interceptions out there because people will be underrating him because, it'd be his first year in the league. And then even if he went to the Rams too, I mean, the Rams were right there knocking on the door of the Super Bowl as well. And then Matthew Stafford's returning as well. So, I mean, I think both of those situations could be phenomenal for Colton Hood's career.
Yeah. One more. This is from the NFL Draft on SI site that I saw earlier today. This one has Jermon McCoy going number 14 overall to the Baltimore Ravens, which is interesting because that's a team that wasn't as good on the defensive end this year and kind of fell apart once Lamar got injured. And they're undergoing a coaching change. So, but they had injuries on the defensive end too. But imagine Jermon McCoy and Kyle Hamilton in the same defensive backfield together. That'd be a nice combo right there. And then you got Colton Hood going to the Minnesota Vikings at number 18 overall. And I really like this one because the Vikings, they managed to finish the year at 9-8 overall. Their quarterback situation was kind of a catastrophe. They went with, well, obviously you saw the 9 memes everywhere with J.J. McCarthy, so that's part of it. But this team was playing Carson Wentz and Max Brosmer at quarterback at times. They finished the season at 9-8, largely because of what that defense was able to do. And I think Hood would, again, be going to a great defensive fit. I know they didn't make the playoffs, but, they're in one of the toughest divisions in football. So that's a big part of it. And again, you like what they've got on the defensive end there in Minnesota. So I think that'd be a good fit for Colton Hood if he were to get it.
Well, every team that you've mentioned so far for either Jermon McCoy or Colton Hood, I mean, these are all like organizations that have at least showed some competence in like the past 10 years. I mean, we're not talking about the Cleveland Browns or anything like that. So, I mean, at the very least, at least that there's a good chance that they could be able to develop. Now, there's more uncertainty with the Ravens considering they lost John Harbaugh and everything. But, I mean, the Ravens, when have they really ever been bad? I mean, to my knowledge, they've always been pretty good. I mean,
steady, very steady.
I mean, as soon as they got into the NFL, which was like the early 2000s or maybe late 90s, I mean, they ended up winning a Super Bowl in like 2003 or something like that. And like they won another one again with Ray Lewis at the end of his career. So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's pretty good organization. I mean, and they won that first Super Bowl without John Harbaugh. So, I mean, who's to say that they can't get that their new coach isn't going to be able to find success either. So, I mean, I like them going to at least an established team that, doesn't usually fall towards the end of the pack.
So let's talk just for a second about some of the other players that could wind up going in the NFL draft for Tennessee. Do want to address this real quick. The mock draft folks, Rhonda, have our Titans taking Jeremiah Love at number 4.
Ooh.
Which, here's the thing, that's fun, but you got to remember that the Titans' offensive line does not stink the way it once did, but it's not great either. I don't really want to create another Cam or Joe Burrow situation with Cam Ward. So, it would be fun potentially, but you just got to make sure the offensive line's good. Would also love to get Jawan Jennings back home, by the way, because he's a free agent this year. And we know what he brings to the table with his blocking and his sure-handedness as well. So would love to try and get Jawan back into the fold down here in Tennessee. David alluded to this. Saw Chris Brazel go as early as 26 to the Bills and as far as 94th to New England. Yeah, I think his deal is up soon. Even though he had a terrific season this past season, I think his deal may be up soon. But yes, the mock draft people are all hyping up Jeremiah Love to the Titans. I don't know what that's all about. Interesting, Posty. I have not seen this, that he was going late round 1. I'm assuming that's the same thing David's alluding to here with the Bills potentially taking him at 26 overall. Look, man, the Bills need all the receivers they can get. That team goes as Josh Allen goes. Yes, he got better with Stephon Diggs around him, but Josh Allen is trying to will that team to playoff success year to year. And if Brazel can be that dependable option, you absolutely take him if you can.
I mean, if you're a wide receiver coming in the NFL, is there really a much better situation than going to the Buffalo Bills? I mean, having one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL for like the past several seasons. I mean, if Brazel goes to the Bills, then I mean, I think he'll for sure have a pretty decent NFL career. But I mean, like I said, I mean, based on his combine performance, I wouldn't be shocked if he started going if he somehow snuck into the first round. But I think more than likely he's probably going to be a second round pick and as far back as like third round pick. But I don't think he's going to drop any later than that, or I would be utterly shocked.
Yeah, I think just with receivers too, like you have to be a generational type receiver to try and get into the first round at this point. Like Jeremiah Smith will undoubtedly be a first round pick next year,
yeah.
But there's a reason for that. The guy should win the Bolitnikoff Award this season, and I mean, who's to say he won't at the very least be a Heisman finalist next season? He's that good of a wide receiver. Chris Brazel is not that. I'm looking here. Okay, so Posty sent me the link to what it is that Mel Kiper was saying. He says, I've been a fan of Brazel throughout the process, and I had him in my first round mock draft in January. So seems to like that a lot. We got a Jags fan in here. David, what are you doing liking the Jags? You're talking to a Titans and a Colts fan here. We do not like them. Don't like them very much at all. Don't
bring up the Colts and the Jags, man, because I know the Jags beat us all the time, and it's embarrassing. So congratulations, David. Yeah, you guys own my Colts.
Yeah, the Jags, they got a good situation going for them right now, although I do know the Jags well enough to know that they'll fall apart here eventually. But yeah, second or third round, I think, is the ideal landing spot, probably second round for Brazel. There's just, I'm not going to call it an inherent bias, but there is, there's just something against taking a wide receiver in the first round for most NFL teams, unless they feel the guy is just that good to pass up on. It's kind of the same thing with running backs now, like what everybody's saying about Jeremiah Love. Like he is that good to take in the first round, but usually you don't get more than one or two of those guys at a position per year. And unfortunately, I don't think Brazel falls into that category. Would have been cool if he did, though. I'll say that much. Last guy that I'll say for sure gets drafted is Josh Josephs. I know we talked about him going maybe as a third or fourth round pick a while ago. I think third because this was a 2-day mock draft that I looked at a while back. I remember this now because I said it had him going to the Broncos right as my power went out during the freaking ice storm. I think at the very worst, he's like a fifth round pick, Jordan? At the absolute worst?
That is at the absolute worst, because if he goes in the fifth round, I would be I just don't see a world where that happens. I mean, he has too much talent, and he's proven it on the field too. I mean, I think like he's more than likely going to go in the third round, maybe the fourth round, but I think that he's got the talent of a second rounder. I think a lot of teams are just sleeping on him.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't see him going that late in the draft. If he falls past the fourth round, I'd be a little stunned, to be quite honest. So those are the four guys I think for sure go to the draft. Of the other three guys that were the combine, and I'll just be completely honest, like if you don't get invited to the NFL combine, I'm probably not going to be looking at you for the draft for the most part. And I don't think Tennessee has any draft eligible players that didn't go to the combine who are really in the conversation to be drafted. Call me crazy. I think of the three guys that we have not mentioned yet, that is most likely to get drafted. Well, this is not really a crazy take, but I think Joey Aguilar could get drafted potentially in the later rounds. If you were to bet on any of those three guys, he'd have the best odds. Do I think he gets drafted? Probably not. But the thing with the quarterback class is it's so bad that you kind of have to look at it and say never, right? Like Fernando Mendoza is far and away the best quarterback in this class. But no one really seems to know if Ty Simpson will get drafted in the first round or not. Like, there's people saying he might not even go in the first round. Like, I think it was Matt Miller, the ESPN draft analyst, that said he's probably going to fall out into the second round. And I saw something earlier where they said Diego Pavia. I think it was McShay who said Pavia was not going to get drafted at all.
Especially after his comments, man. I know you saw that, right? Where he said, like, your brain doesn't develop until you're 25 or whatever. I'm like, dude, like, you're already 5'9" trying to go to the NFL, and like you're saying this stuff.
Yeah, no. I don't think that's going to work. And I'm with you, David. I think 7th at best is where he would get drafted. Again, though, it's just the thing with the quarterback class where it's so bad that you kind of have to say never, right? Because you have both Dante Moore and Trinidad Chambliss staying in college for another season in 2026. And I guess you can throw Arch Manning into that conversation as well. So a lot of the guys that, you thought maybe first-round picks in this class, especially Dante Moore, that they've decided to stay in college, it's complicated things a little bit for teams that are looking for quarterbacks. And there are definitely going to be some teams looking for quarterbacks in this NFL draft cycle.
Yeah, well, I'm so glad that you brought that up about Joey Aguilar being the one that you think would be most likely to make it, because I 100% agree with you. And I think that outside of his field of play, I just think that the confidence that he's showed, the way that he's knocked it out of the park with interviews. Do I think he's going to get drafted? No, I don't. But I wouldn't be surprised if he made a practice squad. And on top of that, like, I do think that he's the most likely to be drafted out of the 3 guys, because I think Bryson Eason, like, he just didn't show enough based on how long he was at Tennessee. Miles Kitselman just absolutely nuked his chances of going to the draft. I mean, he already did that in the 2025 season, but the combine was just pouring gasoline on the fire. So I think you can count him out for that. I mean, Joey Aguilar, I mean, he mental toughness. He's went out there, played with the tumor, and put up some pretty good numbers. And plus, his entire career starting as a quarterback, he threw for at least 200 yards a game until that Illinois game. I mean, I know that he didn't always play the best competition when he was in Appalachian State, but I mean, that's a pretty impressive feat in itself. And you at least know that he's consistent. So, I mean, you would have to, and the fact that he was able to learn Tennessee's offense in such a short amount of time. I mean, I know the NFL is a lot more complex than college is with the schemes and everything like that, but that's at least got to say something to these scouts and coaches.
Yeah, I think it has to, with the mental toughness and the ability to watch and study film, which Deshaun Foster apparently did not see in him, which that to me is still wild that he said that and essentially traded him for Nico.
How'd that go for him?
No, it did not go well. It got him fired in 3 weeks. Not a good idea. So that's about all I want to talk about with the NFL stuff, or Vols going to the NFL. Because that was the main newsworthy event this week. But there's some other things that we need to address on this show. One that I kind of teased at the beginning of the show that came out today. I think Chris Lowe had this written for like maybe a couple years. But Josh Heupel has come out and said that it might be in the college football playoffs' best interest to expand to 24 teams. Before I say anything, Jordan, what are your initial thoughts on the idea of expanding to 24 teams?
I'm sure you share the same sentiment as I do, and I absolutely hate that idea for pretty much every complaint I've had about college football outside of NIL and transfer portal. All of my complaints have been about how bowl games aren't as important, and like things are starting to become consolation prizes. I mentioned that I'm a Colts fan before, earlier on the show. I'm embarrassed that the Colts have like AFC South championship banners like hanging up in Lucas Oil Stadium. And you know what? Like, if Tennessee ends up going to the college football playoffs and they're the 24th team in Josh Heupel's hypothetical scenario, I don't think that's something to really be proud about, and it doesn't increase Tennessee's chances of winning the national championship, because I think the 5 best teams are always going to have the 5 best chances of winning it. So it's just more like saying, hey, you went to the college football playoffs But I feel like there should be an asterisk next to it. I mean, I don't think it's nearly as impressive. I mean, you could finish in the top 25 and have like 4 losses in college football. Like, is it really saying anything if you make it into the playoffs if there's 24 teams in it? Because I don't really think it does.
The Georgia fans would be doing the same thing that the Kentucky fans do to us in basketball and say, "Oh, but you never been to a Final Four." That's what they all do. That's what the Georgia fans would do if they expanded it and Tennessee got in every year and then lost in the college football playoff equivalent of the Elite Eight, which would, I don't know what round that would be in a 2014 playoff. Here's my take on it. It's interesting because I do kind of understand why Josh Heupel said it and why you would advocate for that. That's a good point, Rhonda. It does keep coaches from getting fired because if you say, "Hey, I've been at, I don't know, let's say Minnesota for 5 years, and I've gotten to the college football playoff 4 times in 5 years for going 8-4, 9-3 most of those seasons. You shouldn't fire me." That's a good selling point. I mean, the same thing is kind of true to an extent with college basketball, although they play way more games, so you do have to think about it in a bit of a different light. And I think, too, part of it is with the SEC is they expanded the conference schedule in part in anticipation of in part because they thought the playoff would expand to 16 or 18 teams. So I think that was a big part of the rationale there in making that decision. But now that they haven't expanded it, you're going to see all these SEC teams that are going to be stuck between 7 and 9 wins a lot of seasons. And like at that point, because and the Big Ten still has not implemented any kind of requirement that forces their teams to play a tough non-conference opponent. Otherwise, Tennessee would be playing at Nebraska this year. But Matt Rule decided to be a little baby and opt out of it. I'm not afraid to say it. Because he did it, and it was going to be really fun, and he didn't want to let it happen. But because what you do when you expand to 24 teams is because you're going to have the Big Ten will always have like 3 teams that win somewhere between 10 and 11 games. At the very least, it'll be 3 teams. And they might have a few other 9-win teams in there because the bottom half of that conference, like there's 9 teams in the Big Ten that you can guarantee at least 5 of them will be sitting somewhere between 2 and 5 wins every single year. I guess Indiana used to be in that conversation and is not anymore, but traditionally speaking, they are. So traditionally, that conference is not as deep top to bottom as the SEC is. And when you expand the SEC slate to 9 games and you add in that requirement, and it's 10 Power 4 games that you're playing in essentially every single year, you're going to create a lot of cannibalism within a conference, I think is the best way to put it. You're going to have a pretty messy conference. You might have some 8 or 9 win teams make it to the 2014 playoff. And to David's point here in the chat, I absolutely don't think it is any more impressive than making the NCAA tournament, because the NCAA tournament is the best postseason in college sports, the basketball tournament in particular. The baseball tournament's great too, but there's no touching the basketball tournament unless, Charlie Baker and the morons in charge of the NCAA decide, you know what, let's expand this team to 76 teams, which they tried to do. And by the way, they said that there were going to be air travel problems. Like they wouldn't have enough planes to fly the teams around for the NCAA tournament, which is kind of ironic for an organization that wants to expand its tournaments. But back to the 2014 playoff, like you think about what's happened to the college football postseason over the last 15 years. And, the BCS model was not super flawed. I mean, for the most part, they got it right. Um, Now you still do have some situations like your 2004 Auburns of the world, for example, who feel kind of hurt by it. And in that case, I can kind of understand expanding it to 4 teams. And even then, like going from 4 to 12, I don't necessarily think was the wrong decision. But once you hit a certain point, you're essentially just giving out participation trophies. I think if you were to get past 12, you would be doing just that. The bowl system outside of the New Year's Six has already kind of been demeaned a little bit, um, and devalued. I think is the better word to describe the current state of the bowl system. But if you were to expand to 24, you just have to kill the bowl system at that point, because what other bowls would you have to have represented in there? Like, I mean, Holiday Bowl for sure. You have to include Citrus Bowl. Um, there's another one that I'm blanking on right now. Holiday Bowl, Citrus Bowl, ReliaQuest Bowl down in Tampa was the one I was thinking of. I mean, hell, you might have to take the Music City Bowl with you at that point. Now it'll be played inside. It'll be nicer, but you get what I mean. Like the whole thing has been devalued at this point, and like you can't another thing you have to keep in mind. How do you treat what has become the group of six, with the Pac-12 at stealing all those teams from the Mountain West? How do you treat those conferences? How many bids do you want to give them? Because if you're catering to them, then you're really just giving them participation trophies, saying, "Hey, come compete in our tournament. It'll be a fun reward for you. Congrats on losing in the first round." That's just kind of how it feels. So I know I've been ranting a little bit on that, but all that to say, I don't necessarily agree with Josh Heupel here.
No, I do not agree at all. But to Rhonda's point, I mean, maybe that's where the comments came from about Josh Heupel, like keeping coaches from being fired, because like Josh Heupel's done a lot of great things in this offseason. Don't get me wrong, and I think Tennessee is heading in the right direction. But if he doesn't start getting some things moving in the next couple of seasons, then there's going to be more conversations about him potentially getting fired from Tennessee. Now, like you said, Chris Lowe may have been sitting on this quote for a while, so who knows? Maybe it's unrelated altogether. But no, the 24-team playoff, first of all, I'm not even a fan of it going to 16 or 18. 24.
16 is the last possible threshold because it would eliminate buys entirely. That would actually be pretty cool, like a single elimination 16 seed tournament. But that's because if you expand any further than that, it's a slippery slope, because then you got to go to 32, and then eventually you're just like the football tournament would be the basketball tournament, and you're creating a tournament sport out of what is not meant to be a tournament sport. Like you think about it, you play 12 games in the regular season. If you were to expand that far out, do conference championships still exist by that point? And if you were to do a 64-team tournament, then that's 5 rounds. So that's a 17-game college football season right there. And if you were to still play conference championships at that point, somebody's playing 18 games.
Yeah, and I mean, football is not the kind of sport to be doing that kind of expansion with either, because we know how dangerous and violent football can be. I mean, there's already players that want to, or have been players that have been wanting to opt out of bowl games for a while. Now, I think it'd be a lot less likely for players to want to back out of playoff games. But I mean, you're increasing the chances of injury. You're potentially ruining stats forever. And as someone who really is infatuated and cares a lot about statistics, I don't want to see a whole bunch of these records broke. I mean, look at Ashton Genty and how close that he got, or at least during the first half of the season. Everyone is comparing him to Barry Sanders. And if you look at Barry Sanders' numbers, man, that dude ran I think he had 300-yard games, and his worst game was 155 yards. That is something that should be in a category of its own. But you have a running back that just able to run his way through 18 games, and he ends up breaking Barry Sanders' record. I don't think that should be I don't think that should be viewed in the same way. I feel like that there should be an asterisk next to that. And I don't know. And like what you said earlier, like, did they add more group of 6 teams in there? I don't think they should at all. I mean, if you want to give them participation trophies, go ahead, but we all know how that's going to end up. Ohio State, Alabama, or any of these other major programs are just going to absolutely kick their teeth in, and they're going to be sent home immediately. And you don't, and how many people are really going to watch those games? Like, yeah, of course their fans are going to watch, like there are like 10,000 fans are going to watch those games. But I mean, you're not putting a better product on the field. I honestly think that the BCS was the best thing that they had to offer. That's when bowl games meant the most. That meant like if you lost one game, you better hope to God that you lost that game at the beginning of the year and it was against a quality opponent if you even wanted a shot to go make it to a national championship. And I felt like that kept teams more competitive. You didn't have to take your foot off the gas, and you had to go in and prepare each and every week. And I miss that about college football. But 24 teams, absolutely ludicrous. I love Josh Heupel and everything. I respect everything he's done for Tennessee's program from bringing it from the ground up again. But 24 team playoff, absolutely not.
No, I don't like the idea of it either. Again, we enjoy college football. I wish we could have more of it, but there's a reason we don't get more of it. Because you have to think about all the health involved. And these players, too, they got to get ready for the NFL draft. The NFL draft is not changing its calendar around because of what some people who oversee the college football playoff every single year want to do. Like, none of this stuff has changed, if you've noticed. Like, the combine is still held around the same time each year. And then you've got the draft still in April. Like, do you end up starting college football games in August instead? At that point, like, do you have to shuffle the calendar back? Like, there's just so many weird hypotheticals you have to keep in mind here if you were to move it to 24 teams. Need to get rid of Sankey. Sankey proposed something that I actually think is quite valuable this past week, and that was a one-time transfer rule.
I love that.
I really like that because then you're pushing back on the wild west of college football, and you kind of need to hone it in a little bit. Now, I did see some sports law attorney. I think it's that Darren Heitner guy who's represented a couple different athletes that have been suing over NIL stuff here in the last couple of years. And he said something to the effect of that's not constitutional with like antitrust stuff, which is unfortunate. But if Sankey were able to push that and then make it work, then I think you could be onto something there. But I think at a certain point you gotta either, I don't know what I'm trying to say. You gotta shrink the college football playoff again to like 8 teams or raise it to 16 and then just leave it there. We got to put a cap on this stuff at some point.
Yeah, and if they expand the playoffs too and everything, like when does the national championship take place? Do they cut down the preparation going into bowl season? Did they shorten that window or what? Because I think that it would be a bad idea for college football to get to a point where their national championship's only a couple of weeks away from the Super Bowl, something that people definitely care more about. And I'm not a fan of like how the national championship's been, even since back at the BCS. I think it's ridiculous that they have it on a Monday night. I feel like that has to hurt their viewership, at least to some extent. But yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of things going on with the potential 24 team playoff that I just don't like at all. But to add on to what you were saying about Sankey and the transfer and everything, even if they weren't able to limit players to only one transfer, I would be okay too if like, okay, you can transfer twice, but let's go back to the old days and you have to sit out an entire season if you transfer a second time. I would be perfectly fine with that as well.
Please, let's do that. Do something to try and get this stuff back in order. Because it's a complete mess. And The 9 games thing, I do like the fact that you're getting to see the 9 games because it's one of those deals where you're just if you were to play 8 games, I think we've talked about the math involved here. Like you just wouldn't see certain teams for well, there'd be certain teams you wouldn't see every year. I guess is what I'm trying to say that are important rivals. Like Tennessee would have been stuck with Vandy every single season. So then you would have been stuck not seeing Alabama and Kentucky, but every other year. And I don't think that would have been very good for the league if it had done that. So I'm not necessarily upset by the 9 games thing. Although one of its intended purposes being defeated this year is kind of unfortunate, just to be completely honest. One more thing just to quickly address before we get out of here. A little recruiting note for us that came out around 4:15 this afternoon. Keyshawn Bowman, the Brentwood Academy wide receiver, named Tennessee in his top 5 schools, along with Alabama, Ohio State, Miami, and Vanderbilt. 4-star wide receiver from Brentwood Academy previously had played for, or not played for, committed to Oregon. And he is one of 2 guys that they're pursuing right now from Brentwood Academy. Of course, the other is Kenneth Simon, son of Kevin Simon. I think Tennessee and Bama are close on that one too. So he is officially visiting Tennessee on June 5th, which is a good sign for Tennessee. He's visited Tennessee, I think, 7 times so far in his recruitment process, which is always a good sign when a guy's that interested in you. I haven't seen anything on spring visits, but the official visit being locked in is good. Very good.
And I'm assuming he played with George McIntyre then, right? Or did he transfer from another school to Brentwood Academy?
I might have played with George McIntyre. I'd have to go back and look at some stats. Let me pull up the 247 profile, and I'll tell you for sure if he did.
Well, we all see what George McIntyre's been doing in the offseason, trying to get the team together, get them out on boats and bringing them out to Florida. So he's obviously a guy that wants to be liked by his teammates and has got a little bit of pull. So, I mean, if he did play with McIntyre, maybe McIntyre could work some of his magic and bring him on to Tennessee. And if you're a recruit wanting to go to a college that has put several receivers into the NFL and a lot of them have been pretty successful, then you'd want to at least consider Tennessee. I know Ohio State and LSU, they've kind of gotten their flowers in recent years, but Tennessee at one point had the most first round draft picks of any school at the wide receiver position. And it's because Tennessee can produce that talent. Even on the bad teams, Tennessee's been able to produce that talent. Even during the Derek Dooley eras, there were still the Justin Hunters and the Derrick Rogers of the world that were not necessarily first-round draft picks or anything like that, but, some talented receivers nonetheless.
Yeah. Looking here, because Rhonda is asking, is that the last visit? That's the only visit I've seen him schedule so far that's at least been released. Per rivals. So that's Hayes Fawcett and Chad Simmons who have reported that. I'm sure he'll schedule other visits here in the future to some of those schools. Of course, Vanderbilt's pretty convenient. Bama seems to have a lot of interest in him. Not sure how far up Ohio State is on the radar. I'd be curious to see what his decision would be like if Ohio State really started pushing for him. That's
the worst case scenario.
Yeah, we've talked a little too much about Ohio State doing that, but I think that's about it for us this week, Jordan. We miss anything? I know that was the last big thing we had to mention this week in terms of Tennessee.
Usually I have something to add on to, but I can't really think of anything. I did see something funny on Twitter though, where Peyton Manning and Marshall were at the basketball game, and like some people were going up trying to get like pictures and stuff with Peyton, and Marshall like seemed very disinterested in the whole situation. But that's about all I saw. I just thought that was a little funny video.
Yeah, I mean, anytime anybody sees him anywhere, everybody's got to have a picture. So you can't go anywhere with that guy if you're Marshall Manning. Um, do want to let you guys know a couple things. One, got a little memo from the boss man the other day. Our good friend Mark Rogers told us to make sure that we tell you that we have some ongoing conversations on Twitter on the Voice of College Football Network official Twitter account, X account, whatever you want to call it. It is at the VOCFB on X. Do not type in at VOCFB because I learned that the hard way when I posted that I was joining the network, and I think someone caught it and saw it was like some picture of, I forget what it was.
It was like some like anime character or something like that. I don't know. It looked, I don't know.
Sketchy.
Yeah, it looks sketchy.
I don't know why that account took the at, but I typed it in the chat here for you at the VOCFB on X. They're always asking questions about the current state of affairs in college football, just in the offseason, keeping the offseason content rolling. I think they asked this afternoon, what is the most painful loss your team has been a part of recently? To which I responded, you could make about 25 trading cards out of those in the last 16 years for painful losses Tennessee has had.
Yeah, pick it out of a hat because there's several.
Yeah, I mean, I could make arguments for all of them, honestly. I was at a lot of them too, as hard as that is to say. And also want to make sure to let everybody know too, if you ever miss an episode, you can check us out on Tennessee Volunteers Live or any Voice of College Football show for that matter, on Apple, Amazon, Google Podcasts, and Spotify. We are on all of those places. We've been on Spotify for a while. I think I checked for us on the Apple Podcast. I haven't seen it in a bit, but Apple's kind of goofy like that sometimes. Like I think, and I've had this issue before, like back when I was doing production work at a radio station, like I would have to upload podcasts to SoundCloud, and SoundCloud kind of has a mind of its own. Like it'll pump it out in some places, but not every place all at once. And sometimes Apple is a little slow. But yeah, you can check Tennessee Volunteers Live out in all of those places if you would like to go back and listen to us or catch an episode that you missed. And I guess the other thing I wanted to mention with that too is if you happen to be a fan of a non-Tennessee team watching this show tonight, check them out as well. They've got a show as well. It'll be your school, your mascot, and then the live next to it. Everybody follows the same format here on the Voice of College Football Network. So a couple things we wanted to make you guys aware of that are going on these next couple weeks here at the network, at least until we start to ramp up and get it deep into spring football.
Yeah, and the thing is with Spotify and everything like that too, like that's perfect for traveling and out there. Like, you don't always want to have a video just sitting on your lap. You may get an ad. You may accidentally click out of it. You can have your phone closed and still listen to podcasts and get to enjoy it. You might not get to see our faces, which if that's something that you guys want to see, then by all means, keep up with the YouTube and everything. But if you're going on a long road trip or something like that, just binge some of the podcasts. And, of course, keep the notification bell on too, so you don't miss a video. Even though you guys know we're going to be here every Monday to 8 Eastern, it doesn't hurt to have that little extra notification come on.
Yeah. So again, please like this video, share it with your friends, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Even if you're a non-Tennessee fan, gets you close to any kind of great Tennessee football content you enjoy in the off season. And, it helps us out a lot too. It really does help us out when you like, share, and subscribe to the video here, to the channel, all of the above every single week, if you haven't already. But we appreciate all the support as always. We appreciate you guys for joining us tonight. For Jordan Binkley, I am Tucker Harlan. We'll talk to you guys again next week.